So you went out and bought a 13 or 14 pound brisket, brought it home, threw it on the smoker, turned out fantastic. It's tender, juicy, family loved it. Only problem is, family 4 is never finishing off a 13 or 14 pound brisket, right? So you got tons of leftovers. What do you do with all those leftovers? Well, that's what we're gonna talk about today. Today we're gonna make a leftover brisket pizza on Weber Kettle using a homemade pizza crust. Got a recipe so easy to make, but it's fantastic crust. On top of that, we're throwing in a homemade pizza sauce that you guys will never see coming. So let's start with our crust. And the first thing we gotta do is add about 1.5 cups of warm water. If you get it too hot, it kills the yeast. If you don't get it hot enough, it doesn't activate. Now we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of yeast. I'll put this recipe up. I may call it off wrong. I don't have it in front of me, but I think it's about 2 tablespoons or 2 teaspoons of yeast. We'll put that in next. And then we're gonna add a little bit of honey. I'm using my wife's little muffin cups for these ingredients, which works perfect actually. Now we'll stir that up really well. So we'll let this activate about 10 minutes or so, and when it foams up, we'll know it's ready then. Okay folks, I'm gonna let you see how it's kind of foamed up there. You see how it has a different color to the middle of it? That's where it's foaming up and the yeast is activated. There's a few air bubbles along the edge, that kind of thing. That's when you know it's ready to go. First thing we're gonna do is add our flour. Now I wanna show you the flour that I've got. It's called Caputo Pizzeria. I got it off Amazon. By all means, I'll put a link in the description. This is fantastic pizza making flour, pizza crust making flour. So there's 4 cups of flour we put in there just now. We're actually gonna add 2 tablespoons. We have 4 here. We're using half of it now in the mix, half of it later to coat the bowl. So I'll just pour about half this in there. Extra virgin olive oil. It's about half of it there. And then 2 teaspoons of fine sea salt. We'll mix that in there as well. Perfect. Take our wooden spoon and just start mixing it all up. We're going to mix this till it gets a really good, absorb all that moisture up, and then we're going to knead it for about 5 or 10 minutes. We're going to work it pretty hard with our hands for about 5 or 10 minutes. It's not hard, it's just, take some time. I won't make you sit through all of that, but I'll let you see what I do with some of it, of course. We'll work this dough in right now with this spoon and get it all worked up together here. So we're going to get a little bit of flour out here, just a little bit of flour on the table here to keep it from sticking to the cutting board. I'm using a cutting board as opposed to a dough board, but this will work just fine. Don't need much, just a little bit. The dough's going to be pretty sticky when you first start, guys. It's going to be actually pretty darn sticky, as you can tell. But you want to take it out of here and you're going to work it together best you can to where it will actually stick together really well and get tacky at first and then get less tacky and less tacky, less sticky as we knead it here. We're just going to fold it over and work it. And you'll see a lot of that loose dough and flour you see on the board will be gone here in a bit, but it's sticking to my hands pretty good right now, so I'm going to keep working until it's not so sticky. I've used this many times, guys, and it works great. I'm excited to show you how well it works so you can see a good looking pizza crust when we're all said and done here. And it's a little sticky. That's what you want. You want a little stickiness to it, but you don't want it to be stick where it won't come off your hands. See, that's really good. Stick it a little bit. I'm pretty content with that right there. Now what I'll do now, take this other bowl. I will take the rest of this extra virgin olive oil. There's a can. Kind of coat the sides of it here where that ball will hit. I'll put the ball in and I'll work the ball around in there to get olive oil all over it too. This is going to raise for about 1.5 hours. It won't take too long, but it's something I've seen other recipes that are like work it for 2 hours or let it rest for 2 hours, rise for 2 hours, take it out and re-stretch it and work it for 2 more hours and then let it overnight in the fridge, that kind of stuff. And I'm just not, I'm making pizza tonight, not tomorrow, right? So that's what we're going to do. Really good and tight. Shoot. Good airtight seal and let it sit for about 1.5 hours at room temperature. Around 72 degrees is what they call room temperature. Let that rise so it about doubles in size. Okay folks, let me show you how I set my kettle up for a pizza cook. First thing to know is I actually bought the only fire version for the Weber Kettle pizza ring. With this ring and this kit comes these little clips right here that slide onto the grate holders, right? You may have seen these before. They slide right on there very simply. I will then take a grate, another grate with wings on it, and turn it upside down. The reason why I do that is because oftentimes when you're making a pizza, it's very hard to add more wood because you can't get to the charcoal because of the stone and the grates. Now you can. You just put this right on there, and it allows you to have this open hole where that wing's open. You can drop wood right in. It makes it very simple, very easy to do. Next, I'll put my Weber kettle, the only fire kettle ring on, pizza ring on. Something else I do, oftentimes you have trouble with pizza not getting cooked on top. The bottom, the crust gets burnt, cheese isn't melted, right? So what I do, I take another grate and I put it on top of, inside the pizza ring, take another stone and put it at the very back of the top stone. And that allows when the fire comes up, hits that stone, and then forces it forward over top of the pizza, allowing the top of the pizza to get cooked as well. So I'm going to go ahead and pour the charcoals out. And I'm using lump charcoal, as you can see. And I put them on the back half there. And now I'll put my grate on top of those clips. Like I told you before, I've got this opening back here, which is wonderful. Makes it very easy to add wood to get a fire going in here, which is what we really want. Now we'll let that go and build the fire up. Once that fire gets going, the wood catches on, we can then add our pizza. But now we got to make our guacamole, make our pizza dough, get our crust going, and make our pizza. So we'll go over here now. We'll make our guacamole first. For the sauce, we're going to use a form of guacamole for our sauce. But we're not going to use actual guacamole for the sauce. We're going to puree it down to a sauce consistency. Now that's important because you can't just put guacamole on there as a sauce. It'd be too thick and would be pasty, would not work well. I'm not a huge guacamole fan, but I love this pizza sauce. It's a great job. So we'll get started and we'll mush these avocado fleshes up here really well. I'm using a couple avocados as opposed to, I think it calls for 3. I'm just going to use 2 because I don't need that much. I'm only making 1 pizza with this. The other pizza I'm going to make is going to be for the kids, the grandkids, and it's going to be a regular red sauce with cheese. So it's not as exciting as this one will be. So this is the one we're going to show you. And you'll see I've got that pretty easy to mash, breaking these chunks up. It doesn't really matter, guys, how mashed I get it now because we're going to put it into the pulser, little blender, hand blender. Here's some bunch of tomatoes we're going to put in there. Diced tomatoes, pretty small again. Doesn't matter how small because we're going to put them in the blender. Red onion, I love red onion. I know white a lot of times what's called for. But red onion has just a great flavor to me, and I love it on pizza, especially things like this. So again, it adds an extra flavor to our pizza, having this red onion and this tomato in there. And now lastly, we're going to add a little bit of cilantro. So we want the flavor, we just don't want to be an overabundance of it. Then we're going to add a little bit of this fine sea salt. I'm just going to put some in my hand so I can get an idea. Don't want a whole bunch, just a good sprinkle of it. And then lastly, guys, we're going to add our lime juice. I use 1.5 limes for my juice. I do 3 halves in a juicer. That gives enough lime juice in there. We don't want it too wet. This will be perfect. Very content with this, with 1.5 limes. I don't go crazy, I just get out of there. I'm not here all day to save money on limes. So just squeeze a little bit out. Oh, it smells so good, guys. That lime juice really added that, brings that flavor out of everything. Let this set up a little bit, let the avocado soak in that lime. And the cilantro and the onion and the tomato. I want to add it to our little hand pulser here and pulse some of it down to a sauce consistency. This will make for a really good sauce. So we'll get the lid on. We'll have to pulse here for a minute or 2 to puree it down. Here we go. Go at it one more time. I think I just made this mushed up a little bit if I can, and if not, no big deal. It'll be fine. All right, I think we're good here. Our consistency, yeah, it's good paste, almost like a paste. That's what we want, something that'll go on our pizza dough and make a good sauce. So we're good to go there. Now we're going to put the kettle ring on top. And remember I told you also about using this stone in order to have when heat comes up, it forces the heat across the top of the pizza and melts your cheese. Normally, guys, I would definitely worry about where my vent's at, this vent, but I'm not worried about it in this cook because this is going to be a 2-minute cook, and all we're worried about is where that heat's going. Now, what I'll do next is put the stone, go ahead and put it into the kettle in order to get it warmed up, preheated, excuse me. Now we're gonna make our pizza. All right, so here's our dough, guys. We got our dough. It feels really good. It looks, I mean, it feels great. I think it's gonna do really well. Get it out here and smash it down and kind of let the weight of it fall over. And we're gonna actually put some flour down and some cornmeal down in order to keep it from sticking to our peel here, because it becomes very hard to get off if that happens. So we got some cornmeal down. We're going to just spread this dough out. Kind of let it fall over our hands, and it'll spread really well. And get a good even crust, because you don't really want a thick crust somewhere where it makes it hard for the crust to cook all the way. Try to get as even as you can. What you can do, guys, is you can pull it and turn it. Alright guys, so there we go. Notice I used quite a bit of cornmeal. Feel free to use all the cornmeal you need to keep it slick on this peel. It's a big help. So next we're going to put our guacamole on. I'm sorry, our pizza sauce. Spread it out really well. Get the edge as best you can. Get a good coverage of it, because this stuff tastes fantastic on here. Now we'll dress it with our leftover brisket. Looks good, doesn't it? Man, that brisket's so good. It was a very good brisket. And finally, we'll add our Monterey Jack cheese. Now, this Monterey Jack cheese is a huge factor for this, because it really adds a good flavor to the pizza. Consider it's kind of more of a guacamole type pizza, obviously, and brisket with Monterey Jack cheese. This is going to be absolutely delicious. As you can see over in our fire in the grill, you can see we've got good fire in there. Our temperature's up. We're good to go there. All right, guys, before we get it into the kettle, I want to put some cornmeal on the peel as well, on the stone as well, to help with not having it stick on here either. Just a good amount of cornmeal is fine. So now we'll slide our pizza in. And that's how we do it right there, guys. Pizza's in the kettle. Slide it in good and far. And away it's cooking. So we're going to turn this thing just every few seconds, because it doesn't take but a minute or two for this thing to cook. There we go. Keep on turning. Got a little burnt, a little cooked there, but that's okay. This one edge is just not too bad. Yep. Nice, guys. That looks really, really good. Okay, guys, let's go ahead. I think it's done. We're going to pull it. Oh my gosh, that looks fantastic, guys. It's crazy hot, though. I got to get it over here as fast as I can. Crazy hot. That sounds good so far. Here we go. Oh yeah. That looks really, really good, guys. I'm excited about this. We'll get us a bite of this thing. That's a thick pizza. Let's go with this. And we'll go ahead and go. Let's go. Oh my gosh. Man, that's a fantastic pizza. You guys got to do this. This is so good. Until next time, guys, I'll meet you at the smoker.